Team Canada completed the road to Mexico last fall. A 2-1 victory over Honduras was the culmination of a dream. And the dream becomes a reality today as Canada makes its World Cup debut against a powerful side from France.
Well, this is the big day for Canadian soccer. To go against France, as we're going to do in a few minutes' time, will be the pinnacle in many ways of our efforts to get to the World Cup. What we have to do now is to perform this afternoon, and I think we're ready for the game.
Welcome back to our World Cup Control Center in Mexico City on this historic day in Canadian sport. The curtain is about to go up on Canada in their first ever World Cup competition. So let's go to Estadio Leon. Canada's first ever venture into the World Cup finals, playing European champion France. On a beautiful day in Leon, superbly conditioned pitch, hot, sunny weather, 30 degrees Celsius, not quite a capacity crowd, but a lovely pitch to play on in their first ever venture against the World Cup. One of the favorites, France, and a remarkably difficult test for Canada in their first game, as we see the French goalkeeper, Bass, a little suspect on high crosses, we believe, and we hope that he will be teased by some high crosses later today. Tigana of France being well covered by two Canadian defenders. Number 10, Igor Vrablits, one of our strikers. The French will be expecting a fairly hard physical tussle from these fit Canadian players. But already a threat in the first cross, and Paul Dolan, the youngest goalkeeper ever to play in the World Cup, collecting that ball very safely and throwing it out. Canada will be playing a lot of long balls here, testing the French and trying to put balls through for their front runners, Vrablits and Valentine. Randy Samuel.
Jeff, it'll be interesting to see if Canada, in this heat and in the altitude, can keep up their aggressive style of play that has gotten them through to the World Cup. A very difficult test.
Canada, the sort of team that pressure the opposition in their defending third, unlike the games we have seen earlier between Italy and Bulgaria and Brazil and Spain that we saw earlier. And a heavy tackle from behind, but the referee, Mr. Hernan Silva from Chile, ignored the pleas from France. There's no doubt that that was a charge from behind and very likely should have been awarded a penalty, but Canada escaped that. The Chilean referee, who one would have expected to blow that up since they don't like a lot of body contact in the Latin American countries, allowed Canada to escape there, but France on the attack again. And good anticipation by Paul Dolan, seeing that ball coming through and coming right out to the edge of his area to collect it. A very confident start by this young keeper, as we see the Canadian captain, veteran Bruce Wilson, spreading the ball across to Randy Samuels, a good defender, another youngster, very, very strong in the air, and Ian Bridge, the blonde-haired Bridge.
Canada twice, Jeff, already, as you can see, playing straight across the back of and almost caught twice on two long balls. They're going to have to be very careful with these balls through. Platini is having a lot of room to play these balls through and causing Canada some early moments of problems.
And if they give Platini time to spread this ball about, he will find the openings. Platini, 3 consecutive occasions voted Footballer of the Year, as we see Bass, the French keeper, taking this goal kick. Canada quite fortunate to be spared the award of a penalty from that tackle from behind, but now a kick to France. Canadians in this World Cup for the first time ever. A tremendous experience for these young footballers who've worked so hard to get here. Canada, the only team in this competition without a national league. Canadians spread all over North America and Europe, but they have managed to get some time together and work hard on their conditioning because their style of play demands it. As Verbleek tackles back and gets the ball, and he's fouled there by Jean Tigana. And so a set play for Canada. And as Sam said earlier, our front runners have got to be prepared to do a lot of work, but the altitude and the heat is going to test their fitness to the utmost. But it is a set play for Canada, the first of the game.
Jeff, if Canada's going to be successful in this game, as Tony Waiters, he specializes in free kicks and corner kicks, and this is where Canada, maybe from the few chances they have, will have to do very well from these.
Very well rehearsed here as we see Bruce Wilson and Mike Sweeney chipping it forward. Bridge going forward, getting his head to it, hits the post. But I think possibly an offside flag there. I didn't see that, Sam, but that's a very good start from that set play. The tall, commanding Ian Bridge getting up there and getting ahead on the end of that ball. And that waves his men upfield and sends a long ball well into the Canadian half, headed back to Dolan by Ian Bridge. Paul Dolan, who was selected in preference to Tino Lettieri by Tony Waiters, the coach. A very difficult decision for Tony Waiters to make. But in these opening moments, Paul Dolan looking calm and confident, as he did against England. And Canada tackling back and putting France off their side. A chip into the area, which the French defender is very happy to head back for safety. This aggressive attacking style of Canada, harassing the defense in their defensive third of the field, is something that a lot of teams are not familiar with. And this may provide some loose balls for them or some set plays. Jean Tigana moving the ball out. Tremendously talented player for France. But again, France not being familiar with this pressure by Canada. And getting into a lot of trouble. And putting it back to ease the pressure. And the crowd derisive at the French tactics. French goalkeeper came into the side in 1983 and has been a present member of that side since. Andy Reagan going up for that ball well, but now Lenarduzzi, whose brother is sitting anxiously beside me, sharing in the tension of this game.
I think, Jeff, what France has to be careful of is that they don't take Canada too lightly, because they started off well, but now Canada, with their aggressive style, is starting to upset them a bit.
And definitely upsetting them. Verbleek sends the ball out to Sweeney, and Sweeney a ball to Randy Reagan moving wide. Canada starting very confidently indeed. Bruce Wilson with an overladder puts the ball in, and Canada going in for it, but the French defense able to move it out as Randy Samuels wins that duel in the air. Tigana moving it out. Amaro putting it through, but again Canada intercepting, chipping it through, and starting off with great spirit. Certainly by no means overwhelmed by this very, very talented French side. That's trying a bit of personal gymnastics. Ever present in this side since 83, as we said, but a little suspect in the air. Hasn't really been tested by high balls from Canada yet, except for the one that Ian Bridge popped forward as Bridge again rises up to get possession of that ball. The referee very quick to see Valentine foul, so it's a kick to Canada, just inside the center circle.
Ian Bridge being very dominant in the back already. If the French are going to play long balls, it's straight to Ian Bridge's strength, and he's playing very well so far.
And Bridge and Samuel very dominant in the air. Samuel's a superb jumper for a ball. Long ball by Bridge. And Verbleek's getting up. Verbleek, the advantage of being a tall striker. And Mike Sweeney challenging the French defender Amoros. And certainly France being unsettled by these unfamiliar, aggressive tactics by the Canadians, particularly in their defensive third. As Sam said, it's whether they can keep up this sort of pace throughout 90 minutes in this altitude and in this heat. But certainly they're starting off not being overwhelmed by the presence of this European champion side of 1984, as we see Captain Bruce Wilson putting the ball across the middle to Randy Samuels. Bob Lenarduzzi pushing it forward. Certainly, if France can't make an impression upon this Canadian side by half-time, it may result in a certain amount of talking amongst themselves and a certain amount of laying of blame, which will play into the Canadian team's hands perfectly. Long ball by France. Randy Samuels coming across beautifully to head that ball out. The referee is dissatisfied.
At this point, France is playing right into Canada's hand. They keep knocking long balls up front, and Randy Samuels and Ian Bridge are easily handling them.
Bruce Wilson taking this kick, a long ball forward. And Bats can't grab that ball. Robles has a chance, but unfortunately it doesn't chip in high enough, but there's still panic in the French penalty area. Valentine gets his cross in. Oh, good pressure by this Canadian side, showing tremendous courage and enthusiasm and definitely disrupting this French defense. There was all sorts of panic in that penalty area then.
Again, the pressure that Canada's putting on is causing them all sorts of trouble. They're very complacent, the French. The big problem now is that they started this way. It's very hard to change momentum, and right now it's swung towards Canada.
Long high clearance from Bats, but Ian Bridge again gets to this ball. We've hardly seen Michel Platini in this game so far. There he's spreading that ball out to Amoros. Now pushes it inside to Diana. Small but very talented Gires. This is a chance, but Rocheteau, with the ball cleared away by Bridge, pushes it out. Sam Lenarduzzi to Bridge, and a long ball up to the... Tigana again. Putting it out to the left side. Dussault pushes it forward. France lose possession. And beautifully up by Samuel. Very, very confident and strong in the air. Tigana just gets that ball across in time to Amoros. Bruce Wilson harassing. Tigana always on hand to take up that ball. And safely back to Bruce Wilson. That's time to look around. Pushes the ball out wide. Bob Lenarduzzi. A long ball for Valentine. Still in play. Very difficult to determine from this first 5 minutes of play which team is supposed to be the favorite. Certainly France having been put off stride. And the support from this crowd, undoubtedly for the underdog Canadian team. And Samuels showing there how difficult he will be to beat in the air. But there's a chance. But Bruce Wilson covering across there in anticipation and giving away a corner. So this is the first corner of the game. Major test for the Canadian team. Alain Giresse will take this corner, chipping it into the area, and a chance here if he can turn. Stefan could not turn. And the Labatt TV series continues in a moment.
Looking for tips on fishing? Ask a 50 problem solver.
With some rug stuck to the bottom of your boots, you wouldn't slip on the rock.
Well, put a wheel on the front of your canoe, you wouldn't have to carry it on your back.
Anyway, a little piece of my hair around the hook, and I told you they'd bite.
Yeah, but without my custom-made fishing net,
We never catch the biggies.
You'll never find a better bunch.
He's the one.
you'll never find a better beer.
You got it.
Your motor oil survived the punishment today's engines dish out, circulating it twice as fast, working it twice as hard, breaking it down, and causing it to lose its viscosity. That's why you need an oil with the additive that does more to help prevent viscosity breakdown. Castrol XLR, the oil engineered for today's cars. Look for Castrol XLR at these and other leading retailers.
15 minutes of play in the first half. Score Canada 0, France 0. And without question, Canada have not been overwhelmed by this side as Joel Batts, the goalkeeper, drop kicks a long ball into the Canadian half, but cleanly headed away by Ian Bridge. Ian Bridge, a long ball out to the left. And Mike Sweeney moving down the left wing as Sam Lenarduzzi and Jeff Gowan bring you this commentary. We're having audio troubles in Leon, and as soon as we can correct those troubles, Steve Armitage and Graham Leggett, who were due to do this commentary, will take over. Meanwhile, we are standing by in order to bring to you this very important first game in the World Cup for Canada. And Canada playing very well indeed at the moment. Certainly Bridge and Samuels playing a twin role in the middle of the back four, handling any high ball with great confidence and competence. And David Norman has come into the side as a very late replacement for Jerry Gray, who sustained a late injury. So David Norman is playing, and here's a chance. Amaro, it's got to be, but Massini chips the ball wide. He will never miss an easier chance than that if he lives to play to be 90.
I think it was just too easy for him, Jeff, I'm sure. How to miss an open goal like that?
Not Platini, of course, Papin. Platini provided, Amaro squares it in, and how could you miss a goal as open as that? But he puts it by that far post, and Jean-Pierre Papin will dream about that one or have nightmares about that one for many years to come. Beautifully provided, and a chance for France to go ahead 1-0, but Papin missed that gloriously wide open goal. So Canada breathe a sigh of relief and get on with the game.
France has started to pull Canada over to one side now, and they're starting to open up.
There's David Norman replacing the very last moment Jerry Gray, who sustained an injury, as Ian Bridge puts that ball forward, but the French defense heading it clear. Randy Samuels again dominant in the air. France beginning to settle a little now. Fernandez teasing Paul James. France beginning to find their men well as Samuels comes in very hard, and the referee was dissatisfied with that particular challenge. So it's a kick to France, taken quickly to Tigana. Moves the ball left. Uso moving it again beautifully to Jurek. Magnificently versatile player. Chances again. A little bit of disorganization in the Canadian defense, and France beginning to impose themselves a little and getting their second corner of the game.
Canada's trying to pressurize in the midfield, and once one of the French players happens to get by a Canadian, it's disrupting the Canadian defense very badly.
The French midfield, one of the finest midfields in the world, challenged perhaps only by Brazil. Nicely headed out. Wide to the wings where it's less dangerous, but French possession still. Chance here. Amoros crossing that ball again, but this time Ian Bridge, but back to Amoros. And a chip. But Dolan nicely out and confidently caught. But France beginning to settle and impose their presence on the pattern of play as one of the greatest footballers in the world, Michel Platini, the engine room of this midfield, but capable of coming forward and scoring goals and devastating on free kicks from set play.
Canada's starting to slow the play down a little bit. I think the pace is starting to catch up to them. Right now, I think they just want to keep possession and try and settle the game back down because France is slowly starting to take over.
Very, very difficult indeed to combat this very high caliber, very experienced French midfield. Alain Giresse, the tremendously powerful left foot. Jean Tigana, Michel Platini, Maxime Bossy, an exceptionally formidable midfield. There, Brableet beats his man, gets his cross in, but unfortunately nobody on the end of that ball for Canada, and the French defense pleads to clear it. But Canada getting their chances. And the referee, Mr. Silva from Chile, kicks to Canada. Quick ball taken, Brableet. Too close an attendance by the French defender, and so it is a kick to Canada. France very displeased with the selection of referees for their particular group. They have 3 Latin referees in their group games. They would have liked at least a couple of European referees, but they have instead been given 3 Latin referees, which doesn't please them, and that free kick went straight into the eager and capable hands of Bass.
If Canada's going to do well, they have to make more of their free kicks. They have to use those chances.
Here's a chance for Valentine. Can he settle himself? Tipping it across. But too far, nobody out on the right, but now there is. David Norman round his man. Can he get to that ball? Yes, the cross is coming over. The flag was up, and therefore it will be a kick to France, but a threat from Canada. And the French defense are discussing who should have been responsible for whom there, which is nice to see from a Canadian viewpoint.
Canada, again, just with their aggressive play and style of non-stop running is definitely upsetting them, causing them to make mistakes amongst themselves. And when they start discussing amongst themselves, that's good for Canada. Maybe it'll unsettle France a bit.
Rocheteau. Very fast Rocheteau, moving that ball back to Tigana. Beautiful pass. But Ian Bridge comes across and clears the danger. Canada can certainly not afford to try to play the same sort of highly skilled game as France. To do that is to court disaster. They must stick to their normal game. They cannot hope to match France for technique and skill, as we see Randy Reagan. They must stick to their same game that has brought them to the World Cup finals and hope that they can handle the demands of the heat and altitude, because they're playing a superior, skillful side in France, and to try to match them would be to court disaster. But they're doing very, very well indeed so far, with some 23 minutes gone in this first half. Brableet doing a lot of running up front to have us the defense. And this will be a rare test of his fitness, and Samuels goes up again, but unfortunately charges Rocheteau in the back and concedes a free kick.
As the game goes on, we'll be able to see how the high-altitude training that Team Canada did in Colorado, if it's going to pay off for them.
Papin trying a shot there, but ricocheting off a defender, and so it's Canadian possession. Pushing back for support. Trying to turn. Feeding his man. But David Norman looking confident there. Here's Brableet again. Pushing the ball back. And a good cross from Lenarduzzi. Nobody on the end of it for Canada, but Canada not afraid to cross this ball. And with the tall Brableet in the middle, always a chance of getting on the end of that ball and causing back problems. World Cup 86 on CBC Sports continues in a moment.
We're living every day in a special way, and we like Budweiser. That great Bud taste keeps coming through. This Bud for you, for all you do. This Bud for you. This Bud for you. Dream deep inside, gonna ride it to the sky, gonna ride it and never let go. Got some heart, got some pride, and ain't no win, but I'll try.
Petro-Canada is proud to support Canada's national team and youth soccer across Canada.
I'll stand with the best in the world.
Petro-Canada, our energy is Canada.
25 minutes gone in this first ever World Cup final game for Canada against the formidable France. Randy Samuels heading that ball into the middle, and a long drive by David Norman as Canada show great confidence and competence in challenging this very, very high caliber French side. And Jeff Gowan and Sam Lenarduzzi bringing this game to you because we are still having audio problems from Leon. Steve Armitage and Graham Leggett undoubtedly frustrated to be down there and not be able to do their commentary on this game, and as soon as audio contact is regained, we will switch commentary crews. But we are happy to bring this game to you, this first ever game between Canada and France. France missing an open goal, but Canada not overwhelmed by any means and playing very, very well indeed and very courageously. The big question that we will have to ask, of course, is that second half, and particularly the last 20 minutes, because our two front runners, Brableet and Valentine, have already covered a lot of ground in pressuring the French. The French didn't like it at all, and there has been panic in the French defense from time to time, but their midfield, one of the greatest midfields in football, is beginning to settle as Jurez puts that ball through, but Bruce Wilson pushing it back to Paul Dolan.
Bruce using some of his invaluable experience over 34 years there, covering very well, and the Canadian team is going to have to rely heavily on Bruce to hold that defense together. He's very quick, at 34 years old, the oldest player in the team, and has the most experience.
There's the second most capped player just pushing that ball forward now, Bob Lenarduzzi to Carl Valentine. Valentine trying to get round his man on the outside, but Bossy able to handle him, but not without giving up a free kick. So here's a chance for Canada to get this ball across. Not a capacity crowd in Lyon Stadium, but a good crowd and generally supporting the underdogs Canada as Bob Lenarduzzi swings this ball across. Not quite far enough for Canadian contact. And David Norman coming in late, as we said earlier, for the injured Jerry Gray. Rostow fouled him, and therefore it's another kick to Canada. The Canadians up in the box, Samuel arriving. Now the cross comes. This is a better cross, and Samuel causes problems for Bats. We said Bats was possibly a little suspect in the air, and when you get a tall, good jumper like Randy Samuels with lots of courage, this is a big test for the goalkeeper. Sweeney watching very carefully Amaro. France switch play right across to the left side, trying to spread this Canadian defense. David Norman playing very well. Having come in at late notice. Now is a chance for Brableet, but the linesman's flag is up, offside. Very close indeed. Igor Brableet doing a lot of work and thinking there he had a good chance, but the linesman's flag was up for offside. A very close call.
One of the things that Canada may be able to take advantage of here, of course, is that the French now are starting to get a little frustrated, and they're pushing many men forward. And a fast break like that was a close call and an offside, but a quick counterattack may just catch them.
Ian Bridge got the nod over Terry Moore for a position in the back four. And this youngster, Randy Samuels, thoroughly deserving his place in the back four, having played well in the qualifying game, giving 100% the whole time. Very good in the air. Long ball forward. And Carl Valentine, and that's going to be a corner to Canada. So Battistone managed to square that ball out just into touch, very close to the corner flag. Would have been Canada's first corner. Wasn't to be, but it is their throw, and there is a chance of a long throw here. Into the area. Nice turn. And Norman coming in very, very hard there. Very close call. Norman coming in, showing considerable speed and almost getting to that ball and putting that crossover. 30 minutes gone in this game. Canada's first game, no score against the mighty France. And so a very, very courageous and so far successful debut by this Canadian side.
Jeff, when I was down in Abasolo at their training camp, at the Canadian training camp, and talking to Tony Waiters and the players, what their hopes were to get through the first 25, 30 minutes without giving up a goal and trying to unsettle the team. And so far, I think they've done exactly that.
Yes, and Valentine's getting his cross in. Do we have anybody on the end of it? France panicking there and putting that ball out. Alain Giresse coming from midfield to concede a corner. Canada beginning to get men in there. Igor Prablit doing a lot of good work up front. And the Canadians certainly cock a hoop with their performance in this first 30 minutes. Giresse there having to get that ball out. And now we'll see if Canada can get a high cross to test that or put a ball to the near post for it to be flicked on. Other Canadians waiting in the area in the event of a knockdown to crash this ball home. Carl Valentine sending this corner across. French managed to clear that one. That looked a little bit suspicious of handball, but now he's away. Rocheteau moving down, Bruce Wilson challenging. Ricochet's off, but now there's a chance of a shot here. Tigana chips it in. Up goes Samuel and puts it away to safety. Possibly could have cleared it out for the touchline, but instead chose to concede the corner. So now it's France's chance. 3 corners for France and 1 for Canada so far, for those people who like those sorts of statistics.
Well played by Randy Samuel, the safe thing to do.
That one will cause no problem as the Labatt TV series continues in a moment.
This is CN Today. Running the railways so efficiently that we can track each rail car by the minute and carry information far beyond the reach of railway lines. To serve this land today and in the future, we must work this harder way with lean, compact efficiency, working the CN way into tomorrow's world.
Arby's has a new sensation with our salad story. Add our chicken fingers, and you're talking glory. Our salad's always fresh, our chicken solid like meat. Any way you dip it, it's a real mouth-watering treat. And a beautiful sight, we make it just right. Arby's mixed salad and chicken fingers, a beautiful thing.
Valentine chasing with Bossis for that goal, but safely back to Joel Batt. Still the score. Canada 0, France 0, moving towards the 35-minute mark of the first half. Now's a chance for Mike Sweeney, but he's sandwiched and will receive the benefit of the referees a warning of a free kick. That certainly was a red and blue sandwich, with the red in the middle as Bruce Wilson prepares to take this free kick for Canada. Put this ball well into the area. Samuel going up on the far side. There it is, Samuel going up. But Suso was very clever in not moving away and protecting Baps and gave Baps ample opportunity to get to that ball sent forward by Bruce Wilson. With Samuels up in that area, there's always danger from high ball. Tigana, long ball. And it will be a free kick because the French player was played rather than the ball, so it is a kick. Tigana receives, pushes it out, but a good tackle, very good tackle by Paul James, and then Randy Reagan pushes it off, but it's a little too far for Carl Valentine. That certainly has more touches on the ball than has Paul Dolan.
Most definitely, and I don't think he expected that before this game started.
I think not. Ridge very solid, heading that ball out to David Norman. Norman puts a long ball to Carl Valentine. Supported by Verbleet, but instead tried to find Reagan. Oh, and that is a tackle by Platini, but yes, indeed, the referee nails him for that one. Platini beginning to gesticulate a little. The French wondering why they haven't scored with 35 minutes of the first half gone. Canada chipping it out to the left side, where Bruce Wilson controls that ball. This will be a cross into the area. No, pushes it forward instead to Bradley. Tried to find Wilson coming through on the inside. Now Bruce Wilson must get back quickly in defense. On the ball, looking for men running to space. Battiston putting a long ball through, but back safely to Paul Dolan. And to the skipper, Bruce Wilson, most capped player in Canadian football. Mike Sweeney back to Wilson. Wilson wondering whether to give Dolan a touch and decides that he will.
Bruce would very dearly love to do well in this game. He did tell me that he's going to retire from international soccer after this, and I'm sure right now he'll be very pleased with his performance, and things are looking very good for Canada.
Almost a chance there. Valentine almost anticipating and getting behind that ball. Mike Sweeney will take a quick throw. Valentine moving wide, wondering whether to turn his man. Moves it inside, gets that cross in, but unfortunately too far. But Norman moving very, very quickly on that right flank. David Norman responding to this late selection very well. Igor Verbleet trying to beat his man. Dispossessed. And France touching the ball through with Ian Bridge, pushing it back to Samuels in support. So playing the ball in his area. Played for France before the 1978 World Cup, so again a veteran campaigner. As Bats drop kicks that ball away again, well upfield. This time a French head got on it first, but Bruce Wilson comes in, and Bridge will move it out to safety, and then up the right flank, where Verbleet almost managed to get that ball and turn, but the kick is against Verbleet. Moving towards the 40th minute of this first half.
The French looking very frustrated, still trying to wonder what's happened to them.
Not ever been allowed to truly settle in this game, and apart from that moment of panic when the open goal was missed by Papin, they haven't really proved in any way to be likely to overwhelm Canada. And the midfield, with this great player, Platini, being harassed all the time by Ian Bridge, and then Mike Sweeney comes in and clears, not giving the French time to settle down and spray this ball about. But the big question is, can they sustain this pace? They're covering a lot of ground and doing an immense amount of work. It's a testament to their fitness, the amount of conditioning work that they have undergone in these last 6 months. Now Platini again. chipping the ball out to the right flank. Amoros collecting. Here comes the cross. Papin almost had a second chance. A little bit of dramatics here by the French forward. But the referee will have none of it, but still French possession. Cross by Battiston, but Paul Dolan coming out and collecting. Norman moving the ball at the right side, deciding on a foot race. We're seeing a lot of running from Norman, a lot of running from Carl Valentine. Botti's coming through now. Gires moving down the right side, trying to take his man. Rocheteau at Papin and Bottiche in the area, but Bruce Wilson taking the ball away and clearing it at the left flank. Tigana again to Amoro. Here comes the cross. Headed clear by Bob Lenarduzzi. Randy Reagan getting up to it. But now Bruce Wilson will let Paul Dolan get a touch on this ball and settle the team down. No, decides not to. Will walk it out himself.
Bruce very wisely slowing the pace of the game down. France in the last 5 minutes has started to come back into the game, so Bruce wisely slows the game down and gets a little breathing space for the Canadian players.
Mike Sweeney, back to Wilson. Canada very wise to let the ball do the work because they have already done a great deal of running and they will need to recuperate during the half-time break. And very wise of them, with about 4 minutes left in this first half, to try to slow the pace a little bit, to engage in the recovery process as early as possible, because this second half is undoubtedly going to be very demanding.
This last 4 minutes for them will be very crucial. This is a time where fatigue sets in and you can make mistakes. And right now they're being very wise. Not the prettiest of soccer, but it's probably the smartest way to play at the moment.
There are no awards for prettiness in this game, but only whether you win or lose. Effectiveness is what matters. Amoros now having a run himself up the wing. Randy Reagan trying to get back to cover. Referee allows play to continue. Tries a shot, and that was not too far wide, but I think Paul Dolan had it covered. That was a long run by Amoros.
Amoros makes a long run down the field, shot to the far post. Paul had it covered. Paul was down early, had it covered well. Canadians are definitely in no hurry right now. They're taking their time and want to get out of this first half with a 0-0 tie.
Paul Dolan sends that kick well downfield. The Azteca Adidas ball traveling long distances in this rarefied atmosphere at 5,963 feet above sea level. Tihana is very, very much harassed by Paul James. The referee allows the advantage, and it is to Canada's favor in the long run. Bob Lenarduzzi pushing that ball well up the far wing. Reblique challenging, but France putting it safely and unceremoniously into touch. Throw to Canada, which Bob Lenarduzzi will take. Goal for Reblique, pushing it back to the supporting David Norman. Canada finding space. He will come across, I think. Yes. Carl Valentine up for it. But the referee has caught Valentine holding on Amoros, yes, and therefore it's a kick to France just outside the 6-yard area.
I'm sure Tony Waiter will have a lot of praise for the Canadian players at halftime. I'd love to be in the French dressing room to see what the French coach will have to say to his players.
I think the halftime messages will be different. Bruce Wilson goes up very well to get that ball, but now France in possession. Ghana, but out to Sweeney. Now Carl Valentine having come back, and a good ball to Randy Reagan, not quite able to control it. having had a spell in the middle part of this first half where they really settled and began to look threatening, have not really had the chance, but Platini chipping it forward, but nobody anticipating the ball, nobody running onto it, and Bruce Wilson able to safely guide it back to Paul Delden.
I know that one of Tony's big decisions was he going to mark Platini or was he not man-to-man? And at this point in time, it didn't look like he did, and the decision looked very right for him.
I think as most people appreciate, if you mark Platini, it means that others are going to be free, and that the caliber of Gillette and Tigana, it doesn't pay off. So we see Ian Bridge plays his football in Switzerland, playing around with this ball, as Sam said, not entertaining soccer, but Canada very, very decidedly trying for a result here, not a prize for beautiful play. At least and Bautis challenging for that ball, and there ends the first half, and the score is Canada 0, France 0. World Cup 86 on CBC Sports continues in a moment.
Hey, little beaver. Some guys, lucky to recognize that leopard fly doesn't taste like water. Its original recipe gives you 100% great beer taste. Nothing less.
Sure thing, Mr. Pavarotti.
You recognize me? Do you recognize him? No, it doesn't matter. The important is to recognize that leopard fly doesn't taste like water. Its original recipe gives you 100% great beer taste.
Nothing less. The world is divided in half. Some can go to the net, some can't. There are good backhands and bad ones. The most important to Bic, some guys have normal skin while others have more sensitive skin. So Bic made the new Bic Orange. It shaves sensitive skin gently and closely. So remember, for normal skin like mine, the original Bic White Shaver. And for sensitive skin, the new Bic Orange. Oh, by the way, some people love John McEnroe, and some people,
It's halftime at Estadio Leon, Canada's World Cup debut match against France. Well, as we experienced yesterday, telecasting from a foreign country can sometimes have its difficulties. CBC and 17 other countries experienced audio problems throughout the opening day of the World Cup. Everything's back to normal today, so we thought we'd show you how the World Cup action gets from the stadium to you. The workday starts early for the crew of 36 technical, production, and commentating personnel working on World Cup 86. From our home base, the Galleria Plaza in the Zona Rosa of downtown Mexico City, it's into one of 4 vans, codenamed Beaver, for the 45-minute drive to the International Broadcast Center. Although with the traffic problems in Mexico, the trip sometimes can become a 2-hour adventure. The IBC is located in suburban San Angel, and security is tight. Each van is checked by military personnel upon arrival, and special IDs for accredited media are necessary to gain entry to the complex. Inside is CBC's control center for World Cup 86, our home and headquarters for the next month. The control center is equipped with 2 editing suites, 4 transmission machines, and 5 broadcast booths. The latest in equipment enables us to monitor games simultaneously and to produce up-to-the-minute features tailored for you. The actual game coverage originates from the 12 venues throughout the country, then transmitted back to the master control room within the IBC. It's operated by Telemexico, the finest combined television resources in the host country. From master control through our studio, the selected pictures are beamed by a rooftop satellite dish to an earth station located 90 kilometers from San Angel at Iztapala. From there, the signal is beamed 30,000 miles straight up to a satellite that's 307 degrees east of Greenwich. That puts the satellite somewhere over Newfoundland. The signal beams down to an earth station at the Laurentide outside of Montreal. Via landline, the pictures travel to CBC Montreal and also on to CBC Toronto's coordinating center. What's amazing to even veteran television personnel is that the entire process from Mexico to Canada happens in just a third of a second. Mexico, the rest of Canada, and countries in the Caribbean receive the pictures from Annex D satellite, meaning another fraction of a second in elapsed time. Back at Canuck Control in Mexico City, the work continues throughout the game for production and coordinating staff, ensuring that the signal reaches home without a hitch. But that's only half the story.
2, 1, roll it.
The sound you hear on each telecast is relayed via a different satellite, Intelsat or Major 1. The audio is then beamed down to a receiving area in Mill Village, Nova Scotia. Then the audio travels by landline to coordinating centers in Montreal and Toronto. Almost taking this space-age technology for granted, the crew back at World Cup Control continues its work business as usual. Goodbye from CBC and Radio Canada's World Cup Control Center in Mexico.
Okay, Dr. Robert, thank you very much.
A long day has come to a close, but there's little time to relax. Everybody knows there will be 2 more shows tomorrow. Well, it is the game of Canada's lives, and they are certainly playing as such. A tremendous first half. Canada and France are scoreless. The Labatt TV series continues in a moment.
You know why McDonald's McDLT is so good? Lettuce, onions, pickles, real cool, all the taste you love to crunch.
And your McDLT's 100% pure beef, the taste you want so much.
And then we add tomato, mayo, processed cheese.
To make one amazing piece from McDLT.
It's too far
harmony, that's McDLT.
McDLT is how McDonald's makes lettuce and tomatoes sing.
It's a good time for the great taste of McDonald's.
Be warned. Be ready. Beware. Schwarzenegger got a raw deal, and now he means business.
This must be what they mean by poetic justice.
Raw deal.
Opens Friday, June 6th at a theater near you. Check local listings.
Kaufman King Treads. For a tough job, get one of the toughest boots money can buy. Rugged leathers. Steel toes. Safety soles. CSA Grade 1. Tough soles. Guaranteed not to separate. Comfort from day one. Remarkable Kaufman King Treads. Tough enough to take anything you can throw at them.
We're back live at CBC's World Cup Control Center in Mexico City. If there was any doubt about Canada's qualifications to play on the World Cup stage, they have been erased with that tremendous first half. In fact, Canada not only held their own against the French, but dominated the French. Truly a proud afternoon so far. Steve Armitage in Lyon is standing by with a special guest.
With me now, a gentleman who is more than just an interested spectator at this Canada-France game, the Minister of Sport for the federal government, the Honorable Otto Jelinek. Otto, I know that this is a great moment for Canadian soccer, and you're proud to be part of it.
Well, you know, Steve, it's not just soccer, and without sounding too dramatic about it, this is one of the biggest historic breakthroughs in international sport for Canada that we've seen for a long, long time, because the world is going to be watching Canada, the world is going to be watching Canadians, and our young guys already here in Mexico have set a tremendous example for the world, and they are tremendous ambassadors, and we're very proud of it. I'm delighted that I was able to be in a position earlier in the year to break a tradition and start supporting the World Cup soccer team, both financially and otherwise, because a lot of benefit will come not only to these kids, young guys and their families, but more importantly, even to Canada as a whole.
FIFA, the governing body of soccer in the world, have taken a very positive step on drugs, and I know that this is a special interest of yours.
Well, I'm delighted about that, because we've taken a leadership role internationally by trying to eradicate the use of drugs in sport, and I'm delighted that this is the first time that here at the World Cup there's going to be random tests during each game for the drug use, and it's going to help us here in my meetings with international sports ministers here in Mexico to work towards trying to develop an international uniformity in the use of drugs in sports to eliminate them as we move towards our meetings in Europe later this fall. So I think this is a very worthwhile event, not only to try to eliminate the use of drugs, but certainly to build soccer an international sport in Canada for the benefit of Canada and Canadians, and the federal government is delighted to be a part of it.
Mr. Minister, in the second half of the game against France, on behalf of Canadian soccer fans everywhere and the Canadian Soccer Association, I want you to wear this.
Well, I certainly will, and I'll wear it with pride for Canada as a whole. Thank you very much, Steve, and as they would say in Mexico, Viva Canada.
Viva Canada! And back to you, Chris.
Steve, they may be saying Viva Canada right across the country after that first half. World Cup 86 on CBC Sports returns in a moment.
Looking for tips on fishing? Ask a 50 problem solver.
With some rugs stuck to the bottom of your boots, you wouldn't slip on the rock.
Well, put a wheel on the front of your canoe, you wouldn't have to carry it on your back.
Anyway, a little piece of my hair around the hook, and I told you they'd bite.
Yeah, but without my custom-made fishing net,
We never catch the biggies.
You'll never find a better bunch.
He's the one.
you'll never find a better beer.
You got it.
Swiss Chalet, you're gonna flip. It's a plump quarter chicken. It's fresh cut fries with special tangy sauce. All of this for a limited time only for just $3.49.
It's how great you feel. It's how great you feel.
I told you.
At the end of the meal, Swiss Chalet, okay.
Until you try Gillette's Foamy Smooth for sensitive skin, enriched with skin lubricants, you're missing out on the smoothest foamy shave ever. Foamy Smooth lets your razor glide across your face, so you get a close shave with exceptional comfort. Gillette Foamy Smooth for sensitive skin, the smoothest foamy ever.
We're back at World Cup control. First half is complete in Lyon, where Canada has stunned the French. It's scoreless through 45 minutes of play. Apparently, Hart has beaten talent so far at Lyon, and we can only hope that continues. Earlier today, we saw Group D action as Brazil, the tournament favorites, opened competition against Spain, the host of the 1982 Mundial. And it was an interesting and somewhat controversial game. Spain almost scored the first goal. In fact, some people think they did. There is the shot from Macedo. It hit the crossbar, came down. And when you look at the replay, it appears that Spain scored, but the goal was not allowed. Watch it. It appears to be over the line. No goal was ruled, and it remains scoreless. Brazil comes back. Great feed by Junior to Careca. And there's Socrates with an easy header into the goal, and Brazil would go on to win 1-0. Here's the game winner again. It's an easy one for the brilliant midfielder Socrates. 1-0 Brazil. Spain had one last gasp. Watch this chance as Michel will take the left-footed volley. Great save by Carlos. And 1-0 Brazil wins their Group D opener. And here's a look at first half highlights from Lyon. Mike Sweeney to Ian Bridge, and he just hits it off the bar. Canada comes close to scoring early, and in fact, they had the defense of France reeling. Watch this sequence as one of the best teams in the world is clearly befuddled by the Canadians. There's one shot. Now the ball comes back to Valentine. He goes down the line, puts it in front again. The French finally get a handle on it, and it remains scoreless. Now, France did have a great scoring opportunity, perhaps the best of the first half. Amorous with a nice pass here through, and Papin just pops it by the post. We'll take another look at this. France had a great opportunity to score the first goal. They don't, and so we are scoreless through 45 minutes, and we're looking forward to what should be a tremendous second half. The Labatt TV series continues in just a moment.
There's heart in this land. It's there in all we do. That's why hands across the country reach for the blue. And when we get together, it's a taste that's clean and true. So when you call, then you call for the blue. You know it's gotta be blue. That's why you call for the blue. That's why you call for your blue. It's time to call for the blue. Only you.
Just because you've washed your car doesn't mean you're finished. After each wash, you need some Armor All. On the dash, the bumper, and especially the tires. After all, when you're in love, what's a few extra minutes? Armor All. It's the finishing touch every time you wash your car.
Carl Valentine about to roll this ball away at the beginning of the second half. 45 minutes to go. The big question, when will France settle down and play like the team that everyone expects them to be, and can the Canadians sustain this pressure for another 45 minutes? They have, after all, until Friday, June the 6th to recover when they play their next game against Hungary in Irapuato. The messages, I think, at halftime from the two coaches would be very different, Sam.
Well, I'm sure that Tony has said to them, don't be too happy with your performance in the first half, even though it was tremendous, because they've got another 45 minutes to go. He's going to try and keep them in the same groove that they're in right now. And I'm sure that the French coach has said, hey, fellas, let's start to play here and show these people that we are the European champions.
So, less than 45 minutes to go now as Bob Lenarduzzi pushes the ball up the right side. Leaves it for Lenarduzzi. Searching for players moving up front. Rocheteau trying to chip that ball through, but Bruce Wilson intercepting beautifully. Sweeney coming back to help, but the French tackling back. Rocheteau again trying to go around Wilson. Is it a goal kick? Rocheteau doesn't agree. Sweeney controls him, but a goal kick it is, the referee being in charge.
Bruce was a little bit angry there. I think that he thought Mike Sweeney was fouled on that play, but I think the referee so far having a very good game.
Yes. Supported by linesman Mendez from Guatemala and Luo from Costa Rica. Now, though, there is a definite problem here. I think a French supporter has thrown this cockerel onto the pitch, and Paul Dolan very wisely decides not to take the goal kick. And this is a duty which I'm sure the head of the referees delegation did not discuss with his referees and linesmen. Transportation of cockerels off playing surfaces. But it's off now safely, and Paul takes that goal kick.
Some French fan might have thought that France needed a little help, an extra person on the field or man on the field.
12 men on the field because they're having their hands full with 11. So now collecting this ball, looking around for supporters. Long ball beyond the halfway, but nodded out by Canada. Yes, David Norman there, trying to keep that ball in play, utilizing precious energy by sprinting for it when perhaps could be saved for later. Good covering by the Canadian defense. Bob Lenarduzzi tackling hard. France moving towards the Canadian penalty area. Fernandez puts that high ball across. Dolan hesitates. Samuels covers. Platini putting it back, but a little bit too far back, so Canada able to move out as Tigana takes over. Inbridge. Out to Sweeney, but France in possession as Sweeney goes in for the ball, times his tackle very, very badly, and certainly takes the feet from under the Frenchman. Just a comment, very brief lecture by Hernan Silva of Chile.
Sweeney has been known in the past to be a very aggressive little player. His size doesn't mean a whole lot. He can tackle like someone that's 6 feet tall very easily.
Number 2, Amarov, the victim of that determined tackle by Mike Sweeney, as Gires and Tigana hover to check that the ministering of the first aid treatment goes according to plan. But the referee eager to get on with the game, and so Amarov doesn't have to go off the field. He's recovered. But it is a kick to France. France moving forward. Fernandez now with the ball. Ghana trying to settle things down and find some Frenchmen in space. Nice turn. And a good shot, but Dolan across. And again a second chance. Ian Bridge a little hesitant coming out there. Should have got to that ball earlier. But now Bob Lenarduzzi can move that ball away. That was a close call for Canada.
Paul made a good save on the first shot, let the rebound out, and was very brave to dive at the feet of the French player, and then lost sight of the ball.
Rather close call for Canada. But they survive. France trying to marshal their forces, trying to settle down to play the game that they know they should be playing. Amoros pushing it up. Ghana again trying to push it through. Now France mounting an attack. Fernandez shipping it forward. Giresse nodding it down. Platini. Clever play by the French. A chance. And very, very hard drive, but straight to Paul Dolan. Beautifully positioned. Alain Giresse. A very powerful shot. But although he struck it well, Paul Dolan was beautifully positioned and it went into those big, safe hands.
The French...
Sweeney, high ball for Brablit. Ghana. Giresse hoping to make amends for that shot, but doesn't find his man, and Sweeney pushes it back to Randy Sampson. Tips it forward for a foot race for Brablit. Dispossessed there by Bossi. Platini pushing it forward. Now there's a chance. Bosco pushes it to Papin. Can he miss another one? Mercifully for Canada, he misses another one. He is definitely going to have nightmares over these two, but this second one much more difficult than the first one.
Nice ball outside. Papin here cuts inside of Lenarduzzi, and then he misses on the near post. I'm sure he'd love to have that shot back. He could have been the leading goal scorer already in World Cup play with the two chances he's had.
I think the pep talk of manager Henri Michel has done something for this French team, because already within 5 minutes they have had perhaps more chances than in the first half of the game, but Papin once again missing a golden opportunity. And now Canada attacking in the form of Valentine, getting his cross in, which he does. Sweeney coming in, but Amoros well placed to put that ball away. But a good cross by Carl Valentine, capable of taking men on in the area, and Canada now coming to the French end to attack.
I think Canada has to do more of that. They have to give Carl Valentine the ball individually, one-on-one. He's probably as good a player as most any player, and I'm sure he'll cause the French trouble. They just need to get him the ball more.
And Randy Reagan moves towards the near post. Brablit is on the far post, and the tall Bridge and Samuels are just outside the 6-yard box. Mike Sweeney looks as if he's substituting. Yes, indeed. Jimmy Lowry coming on, 18 for Canada. Jamie Lowry in place of Mike Sweeney, as Valentine puts that cross. Bridge went over the chance for Samuels, but he can't turn quickly enough. Bridge. Oh, the whistle went. Dangerous for a moment.
I'm very surprised with Mike Sweeney going off. He must have had an injury. Now Canada has lost their two starting midfield players, losing Jerry Gray, of course, before the game due to injury, and now Mike Sweeney going off, and I'm sure that he must have an injury problem.
Jamie Lowry, certainly a tenacious player, and of course coming on fresh, knowing that he can give it all for some 35 minutes. loads of time for recovery after this game so he can give his absolute all for the remaining 35 minutes of this game. France trying to spread this Canadian team to find more space for themselves. Ian Bridge again in the middle to the other good jumper, Samuels. Pushing the ball forward, but not close to Brableet, who has to chase back. Referee allows play to go on very wisely. Advantage to France. Bruce Wilson getting in a tangle there. Good tackling back by David Norman, but now the French are coming in strength, and there's a shot and a beautiful save by Paul Dolan. Nicely positioned, went down, covered that ball with his body, having a good game. And quickly away to Jamie Lowry, getting his early touch on the ball, and that's a long ball for Valentine to chase. But these strikers, Valentine and Brableet, are covering an enormous amount of ground, and it must surely tell in the waning minutes of this half. Tigana trying to get this engine room, the midfield players of France, to control this game from midfield and spray passes to their front runners. Now Platini playing very well in the middle, but not showing any great stress as they approach the Canadian penalty area. And the crowd don't like the passing back to the goalkeeper as Dolan rolls out to Bob Lenarduzzi. Wisely slowing down pace and pushing it inside for Ian Bridge, who's had a good game, very, very confident in the air, as is the man who's just released the ball to Bruce Wilson, Randy Samuels. Canada prepared to slow this pace down and give their front runners a chance to recover. The back four playing very well indeed, looking dominant and very strong with any high balls that the French have pushed over. Very few people thought that anyone other than Hungary, Soviet Union and France would have a say in this competition. And thus far, with just over 10 minutes gone in the second half, Canada are showing that although they are very long odds in the betting, they have come to play. And this heat and altitude will place enormous demands on the conditioning of these players. The temperature, we learn, is 34 degrees Celsius in the stadium. And in temperatures like these, you can double your body temperature with just a simple walk in the sun. And these men are going to cover something in the order of 16,000 yards in this game, stopping, starting, tackling, passing, heading, running at different speeds, an enormous demand on their conditioning. And this last 20 minutes is going to be very, very significant indeed in terms of those who can handle these conditions best. World Cup 86 on CBC Sports continues in a moment.
Got a dream deep inside, gonna ride it to the sky, gonna ride it and never let go. Got some heart, got some pride, ain't no win, but I'll try.
Petro-Canada is proud to support Canada's national team and youth soccer across Canada.
I'll stand with the best in the world.
Petro-Canada, our energy is Canada.
For the families, for the heart that beats in them, for the traditions that live in them, for the lessons they teach that can't be learned anywhere else, for the big families and the small families, for all the families. Our Catelli family of pasta and sauces. In each, you'll find that special care we know it takes to make our family a part of yours. Catelli, we care to be a part of your family.
And back in Lyon. Now David Norman making progress up the left side, moving in, shoving that ball forward for Brableet. Joel Batt sees that threat and comes out to clear safely to Platini, who is having very close attendance by David Norman, not enjoying it at all. Platini has not yet stamped himself on this game, but that's a probing ball which the Canadian defense, Bob Lenarduzzi, well capable of handling. Good tackling back by the Canadians. Fresh legs of Jamie Lowry showing through there as he showed some pace going to that ball and decided to leave it.
Canada's doing very well. They're forcing the French to go wide all the time rather than let them come through the middle, which was their problem in the first half.
Dolan electing to roll that one or throw that one out to Bruce Wilson. Long ball at the left side. Valentine moving wide, try to draw that fence, that French defense, and he receives a free kick from that. So now the Canadians will move up into the area. The Leeds making tracks in that direction. Valentine going in there. Randy Reagan moving forward. Canada have placed a great deal of emphasis on their rehearsal of set plays. And the familiar holding figure of Bruce Wilson will take this one left-footed up into the area for his tall jumpers. Just not quite where he wanted it. Not in a position for Randy Samuels to get his head to that one and test that.
Again, Canada, especially later on in this half, now as they're starting to maybe tire a little bit, they've got to do really well with their free kicks. They rehearse them a lot, and I'm sure Bruce would love to have that one back.
That one. The foot race with Washto. Amoros taking it again. Threatening down the right side. Looking for help. But not a good cross. Not on the target at all. And with one of the great midfields in modern football, the French have not really provided very many good balls for their front runners. Paul Dolan takes his goal kick well into the French half. Blitz challenges. May have saved himself a little energy there, perhaps. Randy Samuels again dominant in the air. Tigana pushing that ball through. Ian Bridge clearing it. Samuels fighting for that ball. Platini trying to push the ball out. Four Canadian defenders. Pepin tried to make amends for his previous failures, but the shot was blocked. Tigana again. Fires a long one. Knocks one of the French players off his feet, but they must get to Tigana. Trying to push that ball through. There's a chance, but Pepin misses his third.
Scrabble again. Pepin wide open. Paul Dolan well positioned though, made him shoot wide. But Pepin, I'm sure, is going to have a sort of a difficult night's sleep tonight.
And now we're pleased that the audio difficulties have been resolved, and we throw to Steve Armitage and Graham Leggett in Leon.
Thank you, Chris. Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to have you with us. After a long wait, we have finally overcome our technical difficulties. I'm Steve Armitage, along with Graham Leggett, and we are live from Nou Camp Stadium in Leon on a beautiful, warm afternoon in this Mexican city where Canada has really earned their soccer spurs against France. Graham?
We've got 26 minutes to go in this game, and so far Canada has done exactly what they had to do. Contain the French midfield, limit them to 2 or 3 scoring opportunities, and keep the score 0-0.
Alain Giresse switches it wide to the right. James looking for Bradley, who has run miles in this game for Canada. He and Carl Valentine must be very, very tired at this stage in the game because they did a mile of running in the first half and they have done just as much running in the second half. The Canadians content to attack with the long ball.
They do not have the skill that this French team has. France loves to play short balls, build up slowly. Canada has been going with the long ball to Valentine and Bradley and have had 2 excellent scoring chances. But the more this game goes on, you have to feel that France is getting stronger and stronger. The way they play, they can play for 90 minutes. The question is, can Canada run for 90 minutes?
Alain Giresse is looking at for Pepin, who has had 2 glorious scoring opportunities for France, but has been wide on both occasions. The stadium here in New Camp seats about just over 30,000, and we estimate they probably have anywhere from 24 to 25,000 in attendance this afternoon. Paul Dolan plays it for the veteran of the Canadian side, 34-year-old Bruce Wilson, who plans to retire after the World Cup. And there you're looking at the youngest keeper in World Cup play, 20-year-old Paul Dolan from Ottawa. And he has certainly been tested in the second half. There were many people who thought that Dolan would be nothing more than a dartboard for the French team in the first half, but he wasn't tested that many times. He has had to make a couple of fine saves in the second half of play. 24 minutes remaining to play in this very important match for Canada, their first ever appearance in the World Cup. Ironically, it was France that played in the very first World Cup game way back in 1930. They beat Mexico 2-1 in Uruguay. Good tackle there by Paul James, number 15 for Canada. This is Rocheteau. And this is the substitute. Jamie Lowry plays it ahead for Carl Valentine. And then Lowry gets it back, but he won't be able to keep it in play, so it'll be a throw-in for France.
There we saw an example of how this ball pings in the altitude. Lyon is 1,804 meters above sea level, and this ball just really flies, hits the turf, and goes.
Temperature at game time in the high 80s Fahrenheit. Quite a warm afternoon. Beautiful playing surface here in Lyon. This is Jaurès. Jaurès with a shot, and it's high and wide. And Paul Dolan will take those kind of shots all day long. This is the 9th World Cup for France. Their best finish was a 3rd place in Sweden. As we take a look at that play again.
Well, Jaurès tries a long, long shot, but there's no danger at all. Little Alain Jaurès, who plays for Girondins de Bordeaux, is a terrific player, but that shot, no chance.
We expected Tony Waiters to make a couple of substitutions to start the second half, but he only elected to go with Jamie Lowry. He took out Mike Sweeney, which was a bit of a surprise because, as we mentioned, Igor Vrablit and Carl Valentine had run an awful lot in that first half of play and seemed to be tiring. We thought that we might see Branko Segota or Dale Mitchell. Kigana has it stripped by David Norman, who has played a very strong game for the Canadian side.
David Norman, a last-minute choice because Jerry Gray pulled a hamstring this morning and had to pull out of the team.
Amoros being watched by the Canadian captain, Bruce Wilson. Flips it forward. Bob Lenarduzzi goes back to the keeper, Paul Dolan. Bit of a gamble on the part of Lenarduzzi, but fortunately it paid off. Dolan throws it to Wilson, who will be looking for a coaching position when he retires at the end of the World Cup. Certainly qualified to fill a pair of coach's shoes. Back to the keeper, Joel Back.
And there we saw an example of how tired Valentine is getting, because he was getting to that ball first in the first half, but now Valentine and Vrablit are playing 2 front runners against 4 defensemen for France, and it's very, very tough.
This is Patrick Battiston being watched by Igor Vrablit, and look at the way Vrablit is running all the way down the field. There's the cross. Oh, and a chance to hit the crossbar. Marvelous opportunity, and he hit the crossbar. Jean-Pierre Papin coming very, very close to putting that ball in the net.
Great run by Battiston. Papin hits it beautifully. Poland, lucky to see it bounce off the crossbar. I must say that Jean-Pierre Papin, the striker from FC Bruges, could have had 4 goals, but the score is still 0-0.
And the longer they go, perhaps the better it will be for Canada. The French are getting very, very frustrated. It was said by the experts that as long as Canada could keep the French off the scoreboard in the first and throughout much of the second half, perhaps the French would get too frustrated. Now here they come, led by Michel Platini. Platini gives it to Papin, and a good save by Dolan as he tips that shot over the bar.
And Papin, you think about snake that. He has got a marvelous chance laid on here by Platini. Once again, he has a great opportunity. Dolan gets his fingertips to it, pushes it over the crossbar. Every opportunity has fallen to Jean-Pierre Papin.
Corner kick for France is a short one. To Chicana. Chicana crossing into the box, headed away by Ian Bridge to Jamie Larry. There's a shot, and again it's deflected over the bar.
And one gets the feeling now that it's just a matter of time before France scores. Another opportunity. Sloppy clearance, it's deflected over the crossbar, but France coming more and more into this game, beginning to look more like the European champions that they are.
And it looks as if we're going to get a substitution for France. Number 19, Yannick Sopoya, will replace number 18, Dominique Rocheteau. Sopoya coming into the game, Rocheteau going out. So the French have used one of their two substitutions that they're permitted in this game. The French have certainly applied the pressure in the last 4 or 5 minutes on Paul Dolan, but he has risen to the occasion each time. 20 years of age, a bit of a surprise starter in place of Tino Lettieri, who was very, very disappointed at not getting the nod, at not being named the starting Canadian keeper. But Paul Dolan has certainly come through. Dolan coming well off the line and pulling that one in, and that's something he is able to do with his 6'3" height. When he goes up for a ball, there aren't too many around that can challenge.
And he just rolled the ball to Bridge there, giving forward time to get back upfield. They have to challenge up there.
Valentine, Lowry, unable to get possession of the ball for Canada. Rousseau just chipping it forward, looking for Pépin. There's Bob Lenarduzzi, brother of our co-commentator, Sam Lenarduzzi, one of 4 soccer-playing Lenarduzzi. Still scoreless. Coverage of the Labatt World Cup TV series continues in a moment.
We're living every day in a special way, and we like Budweiser. That great Bud taste keeps coming through. This Bud's for you, for all you do. This Bud's for you. This Bud's for you.
British Columbia, Vancouver, and Expo 86. A spectacular national celebration where Canada will host the world. 5.5 months of entertainment, culture, and friendly people. Come to the province you've never seen. Come to a world so spectacular. 3-day tickets and information at the Royal Bank.
Welcome back to New Cap Stadium in Leon, Mexico. On a beautiful afternoon and a beautiful game it's been for Canada so far. It is still scoreless. Canada's first ever game in World Cup competition, and they are more than holding their own against this French side.
More than holding their own.
Here's a chance perhaps if Gravelich can get to it. He couldn't beat the French defender, Patrick Battiston, and Bats was able to come up with it. I'm amazed at the way Gravelich and Valentine continue to run. They are in tremendous shape. Tony Waiters has done a remarkable job in getting this game, or this team, match fit for this game. There was some talk that one of the few problems that this French side, who really came into this as one of the favored teams from Europe, would encounter at altitude would be the age of the team, and it was felt that the older the player, the tougher the altitude would be on them.
That's true, and many experts in Europe felt that France had peaked last year. They felt that the best years were 84, 85, and that they'd gone over the top coming into Mexico.
Randy Samuel goes high, and now Dolan will pull that one out of the air off the head of Sopoya, the substitute.
Canada's next 2 opponents in this group are the Soviet Union and Hungary. I talked to the former Manchester United star Bobby Charlton before the game, and he'd been watching the Soviets and Hungary train today, and he said they're very, very strong. The Soviets looked well disciplined, and Hungary looks very sharp. So if Canada can get through this with a 0-0 tie, they will go into the next two games with a great deal of confidence.
In the first half here in Leon, the fans were booing Canada when they went back to their keeper. Now they're booing France. It's a delaying tactic that the Canadians used to almost perfection in the opening half here in Leon. And now the French are being forced to do it. Just over 15 minutes remaining to play. It is still scoreless. Canada nothing, France nothing.
And you know that France are not at all pleased with the performance in this game. When do you see French defenders hitting 50-yard balls to the front men? Never, ever.
James chipping that ahead to Lowry. This is Igor Vrablich right in front of the press box here in Leon. Bob Lenarduzzi chipping it forward, hoping that Randy Reagan can make a run onto it. He does. Reagan crosses it, and it really was a bit of a wasted ball, unable to find any of his intended targets, David Norman or Carl Valentine. As we look at Joel Bax, who plays for Paris Saint-Germain in the French League, 29 years of age, considered to be a bit of an acrobat on the line, but if he has a weakness, it would be in the air. We haven't seen that weakness so far in this game this afternoon. Alain Giresse back to Manuel Amoros. Amoros switches the attack, comes to the left side, where Jamie Lowry is able to knock the ball into touch and kill off more precious seconds for the Canadian side. Tony Waiters and company would dearly love a win. In fact, they were talking about a win at their training camp in Abasolo, just 50 miles from here, but inside you had to believe that Tony Waiters would accept a tie. Igor Vrablich beating two men. Little space down the right side. Plays it inside for Carl Valentine. Valentine has a man open, and then the ball is stripped neatly by Balsite.
Valentine just failed to get his head up there. Paul James had made a lovely run from midfield, was in a beautiful position. But there again, I think this is tiredness. Valentine just didn't have the skill or the vision to see James make that run.
Platini chips it ahead, but Bruce Wilson is there. David Norman. Push from behind, and it rolls into touch, and it'll be a throw into Canada.
We've mentioned so many times that this was Canada's first time in the World Cup. France, a very experienced World Cup team, have played 27, won 11, tied 3, and lost 13. But the amazing statistics is they've scored 50 goals and given away 59.
The French fans far outnumber the Canadian fans here at Nou Camp Stadium in Leon, but what small number of Canadian fans there are, they have been very vocal. They are located in an area to our right, a great sea of Canadian flags, but certainly the French have a massive support here, as they are expected to certainly get by the first round and into the second, and perhaps even challenge for the World Cup title. Tigana working against Randy Reagan. Bruce Wilson leaves it, and then James has to clear the ball into the stands. And that's the one area where the stands are a little empty. Our side, and certainly the end to our left and the end to our right, is jam-packed. And they've started the wave here in Leon. We saw it yesterday at Azteca Stadium in Mexico City. The wave has a version in Leon. There's a shot from well out. Oh, and it hits the bar. I don't believe it. It hit the goalpost from well out. Oh, my. The French have been very unlucky indeed.
That shot did not hit the goalpost. Paul Dolan pushed it onto the goalpost. Great goalkeeper by the youngster.
And France have scored!
But you just cannot keep them out forever. Eventually it had to come. Just look here, across to the far post. Dolan is underneath it. The crossback, and there it is. A goal for France, and the one that Paul Dolan did not want to give up. No way in the world that they could stop it. There it is, right in the back, and Papin, after missing 17 chances, gets one.
CBC's coverage of World Cup 86 continues in just a moment.
The Delta Miracle Blade is making this curved cut. It's easy to make rounded forms or countertops. Your Delta blade cuts sideways to kerf out paneling or fit drywall. Groove out to conceal wiring or to fit around pipes and fixtures. Clamp a gauge block to your saw base to make dado cuts. The saw blade cuts sideways, just great for framing. Use your Delta blade wherever you need a flush fit. Use the Delta blade on your radial arm saw. Takes out 3/16 of an inch, will not grab or bind. Make long curved cuts for hobby work or for boat building. You also have a power rasp for all kinds of work. The Delta blade works on all saws with a 5/8 inch shaft. We are actually cutting a circle with this table saw. It really does the job.
Visa, MasterCard, and COD orders, call toll-free or send check or money order for $19.95 plus $3 postage and handling to Saw Blade, Department in D.C., 26 Les Mill Road, Down Mills, Ontario, M3B 2T5.
Welcome back to New Camp Stadium in Leon, Mexico, where France have scored against Canada. It is now 1-0 in favor of the French. And, Graham, it was really just a matter of time. The French had so many scoring chances.
They're beginning to be quicker to the ball. They're beginning to find spaces better, but Canada is still coming at them.
David Norman, if he can get to this, he can't. It'll be a throw-in for Canada. According to my watch, just under 10 minutes to play now in the second half. France leading 1-0 on a goal by number 19, Stopira, when Paul Dolan was well out of position after having made a brilliant save only seconds before. Now, this would be a tremendous disappointment for the Canadian side, but they certainly have nothing to be disappointed about. They have played well. I am sure they have made a lot of fans here in Leon, and certainly I know at home, with their determined effort, with their gutsy performance here in Leon this afternoon. I'm not writing them off. I'm not suggesting for one moment that they're going to lose this game, but just exactly how deep can they dig and come up with the reserves to get back into this game is the question. Lenarduzzi trying to find Valentine. Valentine battling against Tussaud. And it would appear that Franco Segota will be coming into the game as a substitute. He is loosened up on the far side.
And this shows now that Canada has to press forward and try and get the equalizer. They're bringing on Franco Segota. They've taken off the midfielder Paul James. So now Bradley and Valentine will get some help up front.
Segota with a tremendous shot, coming off a very successful indoor season with the San Diego Sockers. They won the MISL title. Segota, a prolific indoor goal scorer, has not had great success with Canada outdoors, but certainly possesses a very hard shot. Valentine to Bob Lenarduzzi, who crosses it along the ground, picked off easily by Tigana. Now Canada applying pressure to the French side. Bruce Wilson, the Canadian captain, the oldest Canadian member at age 34. Certainly hasn't shown his age this afternoon. He has played a very strong game. Segota with the first touch of the ball, gets around one man. Still has it. Passes off to Bradley. They try to work the give and go, but it doesn't work. Randy Reagan. Reagan to Jamie Lowry. Pride of Port Alberni, British Columbia. To another BC native, Bob Lenarduzzi. There's the cross, looking for Segota. But he was unable to get to it as Bat pulled it down.
And Steve, you spoke about Canada winning friends in the crowd. I'm sure that Canada has gained a lot of respect from this French side. France come in here thinking it was a cakewalk. They've been very severely tested by a magnificent performance by this Canadian team.
Bradley battling against big Maxime Bossi. Tigana for Jerez to Platini. Platini plays it back for Luis Fernandez. 6 minutes to play in the game. France leading Canada 1-0 on a goal by Stopira. This is Alain Jerez. Very skillful, very quick. For Platini, Platini tries to find Pepin, but Wilson is able to cut it out and knock it back to the keeper, Paul Dolan.
Dolan, who looked a little shaky, I thought, in the first half. He was sort of unable to make a decision whether he wanted to go for the ball, come out and challenge the play, or stay back. And he got caught a couple of times, but certainly in the second half, he settled down, and he has played an outstanding game for Canada. Joel Batts, who really hasn't been tested by the Canadian side. That was one of the weaknesses for France in the World Cup in 1982. They seem to have solved their keeping problem with Joel Batts. Lenarduzzi likes to keep the ball in play. We'll keep a close eye on the stadium clock here at Leon. It shows exactly now 5 minutes remaining to play. The referee, Silva from Chile, like Fredrickson yesterday at Azteca Stadium, seemed to go by the scoreboard clock. He certainly won't have much time to add on for injuries. There haven't been that many stoppages in the game. Chicana flicks it to Ian Bridge. Bridge to Randy Samuel, who, if I were a scout from anywhere around the world watching this game today, I would certainly have to be impressed with the play of that youngster, Randy Samuel, born in Trinidad, now lives in Vancouver. Platini. Long ball for Pakistan, who made a long run from his back position.
And if you think that Canada is not getting respect from this French team, with 4 minutes to go, France has pulled every blue shirt back except Papin and Stopira.
Here comes David Norman now. Back to Randy Reagan. Randy Reagan for Carl Valentine. Valentine with lots of space on that side. Let's see what he elects to do with it. He crosses it into the middle, and it's punched out by Batts, and Igor Bravlich was standing right there, but unable to get to the ball. Ian Bridge. The French now simply content, as Graham pointed out, to defend in numbers. Blue shirts everywhere in their own half. Segota still has it. Segota pushed down by Chicana, and a free kick awarded to Canada. This will come from just outside the 18-yard box, always a dangerous area.
And Segura now in the game as a substitute has one of the hardest shots in this competition. Let's see if he has a go at goal. France are pulling everybody back. Every blue shirt is back in that lineup.
Now, if this were Michel Platini taking the shot from this area, I would say that the chances of a goal might be pretty good. I don't know what Franco Segota can do. We haven't seen him in that many outdoor appearances for a Canadian side. Bruce Wilson is there directing traffic for the Canadian team as we look at the French keeper Batts. There's the shot taken by Segota right into the wall and then headed away by the French side. Randy Samuel being covered there. Bruce Wilson comes up with it for Canada, working against Pakistan. Charette wins it. Bossy. Michel Platini, European Player of the Year. There's a long ball and a good chance there for Fernandez. Had he been able to pull that ball down and control it, because Dolan had committed himself, he was well out. A good ball, and that's what Platini does so well.
Well, Dolan starts to come, then stops. If you're going to come, you have to come all the way, but he just did enough to put Fernandez off. The ball goes over the crossbar.
Jamie Lowry. Bob Lenarduzzi. For Carl Valentine. Valentine to Segota. Segota with a miss hit there. According to the stadium clock, and again, it's unofficial, 1 minute and 32 seconds remaining to play in the game. This is Michel Platini to Alain Giresse, to Amoros. This will be a very disappointing result, I'm sure, for the Canadian side and Tony Waiters, but they have a great deal to be proud of. They have held one of the great sides in Europe in the last 4 or 5 years. Oh, no, falls over, makes a mistake, and then Ian Bridge is there in support to knock it back into the arms of Dolan.
unable to win that challenge in the air. Obviously, fatigue setting in for the Canadian side. They have worked very hard. They came out with an aggressive style of soccer, and it certainly worked wonders for them up until the moment when Stopira was able to beat Dolan. Another free kick awarded to Canada.
And everybody's up. We've got Samuels up, Bridge up, Lenarduzzi up. There's no point in leaving any defenders back now. We have to get a goal back.
Only seconds remaining to play in the game. This may be the last chance for Canada. Randy Samuel going up, can't reach it. Bob Lenarduzzi pestering his man. Pagoda with a shot from well out, and it's high and wide. That may have been the last opportunity for Canada. The referee looks at the fans and says, get the ball back into play as quickly as possible. He is obviously now adding on extra seconds. We are in extra time.
And the Canadian fans in this crowd in Lyon obviously disappointed, but they must be feeling very proud of the way their team played today.
They can certainly go back into the streets of Lyon and hold their heads high, as can the Canadian side. They have played very well indeed. Bruce Wilson picks the ball up. The game is over. Canada, in their first ever appearance in a World Cup, playing exceptionally well, but losing 1-0 to France.
And welcome to the World Cup scene, Canada. You've put Canada's soccer right on the map. To hold France to a 1-0 game is a marvelous result.
The final score, once again, was France 1, Canada 0. CBC's coverage of World Cup '86 continues in just a moment.
One could kill you, the other save your life. You must choose. But if you can't read, you may choose the wrong one. In Africa, Asia, South America, code helps people to read and write, to grow more food, to raise healthier babies. Your donation of $15 helps Code provide books, blackboards, tools. The need is urgent. Education is the code to a better world.
17 hours. That's how long it took us to paint this house with a brush. Then we painted it in just 6.5 hours with a Wagner Power Painter. This wicker chair took over an hour, but less than 5 minutes with a Wagner Power Painter. A shutter that took 20 minutes, a Power Painter finished in only 3. It's a tool so versatile, it has a flexible spray tip and a way to draw paint right from a can. A Wagner Power Painter is the right tool for painting.
Well, no one gave Team Canada a chance at getting a point in the game this afternoon. At least international experts of the sport didn't think so. But nevertheless, they came through with a brilliant effort. A 1-0 loss, but Canada earns a great deal of respect in defeat. Now let's go to Steve Armitage and Graham Leggett.
Graham and I will be on the road again. We'll be leaving Lyon and heading for Irapuato, and an important game in the Canadian group between Hungary and the Soviets.
It should be an interesting matchup. The Hungarians are trying desperately to regain the honor and the glory that they had in the early 50s, and the Soviets, with 7 Dynamo Kiev players in the team, are hoping that for once the soccer team can match the performances of the hockey team.
Incidentally, all members of the Canadian team will be making the trip to Irapuato for that game, and we'll have it for you. It's Hungary against the Soviets.
Next game will be on Friday against the Hungarians. They will play the Soviet Union on Monday, but I think they have some time to savor what they accomplished today. Although they were not expected to win and did not win, Canada certainly put up a very tough fight against France and has earned some respect. Let's go now to the highlights with Jeff Gowan and Sam Lenarduzzi.
One of Canada's better chances, a long cross to the back post, and Ian Bridge just barely missed it. Canada had France in all sorts of trouble. Igor gets onto the ball, Bats comes out. The French defense is in total disarray here. Carl Valentine beats his man. Cross again. The French finally Bats holds onto the ball and settles the French defense down.
Then Platini pushes one through. Amoros. And Papin crossing it outside the post. Leon, the shoemaking capital of Mexico. Papin doubtful about the boots he was wearing, I think. Another shot, scrambled by Dolan. Ricochets off Dolan. French pressing again. Platini pushing it through. Beautiful back heel. Hard shot, but well taken by Paul Dolan. French press again. And again Papin shooting wide of the post. Now Amoros. Had a good game. Hard shot, Dolan well able to handle it. Good covering. Moved down the right wing by Battiston. Swings the ball across. And another miss from a very, very hard drive that had Poland twitching. French pressing again. Good interplay. Paul Dolan, a reflective save over the bar. Again, France pressing. A long drive deflected by Paul Dolan off the post. And then slightly out of position, and at last, but with his head this time, Papin scores to put France ahead 1-0. Significant that after all those misses, he secured the score with a header. A very, very fine performance by this Canadian side. Held out until 11 minutes. Paul Dolan not able to punch that ball away, and Papin puts France one ahead. Here it is again, headed in, 11 minutes from time.
One of the few mistakes that Paul Dolan probably made, just went under that ball a little bit and allowed the French to head it back.
A very, very fine performance indeed for this Canadian side. Lots of courage, lots of confidence. Played one of the best sides in the world and held them until 11 minutes from time. And now, back to Leon and Steve and Graham.
Graham, I thought the result was a good one for Canada.
If it hadn't been for the goal, it would have been a tremendous result for Canada. Their aim coming into this game was to shut down the much-vaunted midfield of France and give credit to Sweeney, James and Reagan. We saw very little of superstars like Platini, Jaurès and Tigana.
And I give full marks to young Paul Dolan, who was under a tremendous amount of pressure. There was a lot of second-guessing going on here all week long as to who would start in goal. It was felt that Tony Waiters would go with the experience of Tino Lettieri. He elected to go with Paul Dolan, and as it turns out, I think a wise choice.
Tony Waiters showed a lot of confidence in Dolan, and Dolan certainly justified it. He had a couple of shaky moments, but any goalkeeper in the World Cup does. He made 3 tremendous saves, and I think the youngster can be very proud of himself.
Graham, I think this has to give a tremendous boost to Canadian soccer. It must have been a very enjoyable afternoon for Canadian soccer fans to see their team perform as well.
Just a tremendous afternoon, and nothing to fear from Hungary and the Soviets. Canada's confidence must be very high.
The final score once again here in Leon, a bit of a disappointing final result for Canada. They were beaten 1-0 by France in their first ever appearance in a World Cup game. But they certainly more than held their own, and they have nothing to be disappointed about because they really played their hearts out. Back to you, Chris.
And that has been the story of Canada's play throughout World Cup qualification. They are a gritty bunch, and they certainly proved it to the French today. I think it's ironic that Jean-Pierre Papin scored the winning goal for the French. He had 5 tremendous scoring chances prior to finally scoring and giving France the victory. A few things have been answered today. A lot of people criticize Canada's preparation, playing in Florida, not coming to Mexico quickly. A lot wondered about the goaltending decision. Sam Lenarduzzi and Jeff Gowan, your thoughts on how it all turned out this afternoon?
Well, I think extremely disappointing to go so far and then be defeated by a goal with just 11 minutes to go. But a sterling performance by this Canadian side. Defeated but certainly not disgraced at any time or in any phase of the game. The great and vaunted French midfield took a long, long time to settle down and never really did dominate the game. And eventually, after a great deal of pressure, Canada conceded that goal with 11 minutes to go. But they've nothing to fear at all from the next 2 teams. They can play with the same sort of courage again. They have 6 days to recover.
Paul Dolan, again, one of the heroes of this game, but I think there was really 11 Canadian heroes. In fact, 12 with the substitutes. They played very well. They stuck to their game plan. Tony wanted them to play that way. They played 4-4-2, which is a bit defensive, but it was working for them until the last 11 minutes. The big question now is, have they thrown so much into this game, and do they have enough left for the rest? They've got 3 to 4 days rest, and I would hope that they can recover in that time.
I would think they can, because they have the conditioning which will allow them to do this. If they have a relatively easy day tomorrow and just do some very light training, take in lots of liquid, because they undoubtedly lost a great deal of liquid in the tremendous heat and the pace at which they played for 90 minutes. But with the conditioning they have, I've no fear at all about their ability to come back when they play Hungary. For ourselves, we have a very interesting game, an exceptionally difficult game tomorrow, because we are doing the Poland-Morocco game. And when you see the Polish lineup, it becomes a challenge to pronunciation. And so for those Polish Canadians who will be watching that game tomorrow, we apologize in advance, because we've seen the lineup and it's going to be a mouthful. Morocco, of course, known as a very clever side, their second time in the World Cup, the first time significantly in 1970 in Mexico City. They have in Kimumi the Pele of Africa, a very skillful player indeed. They are coached by a Brazilian who has taken out the Islamic faith. Poland, of course, 2 third place and 1 sixth place performances in the World Cup in their last 3 visits to the World Cup finals, and having Zamuda, who will be making his 4th World Cup appearance in this, and in this game will in fact have competed in 21 World Cup matches, which will equal Seeler of West Germany's World Cup record. So a very, very interesting game tomorrow, Poland and Morocco, and for Stephen Graham, an interesting challenge of the other 2 teams in the group that we were watching today, the France-Canada group, that is the Soviet Union and Hungary, a clash of European giants. Hungary with a tremendous record in World Cup performance.
Well, I think the one player that we may have missed out with Poland, of course, is Boniek, who was one of the genuine superstars of the last World Cup, and I think he's going to provide some entertainment for us as well.
And a new find as a striker, Zikanowski, just to indicate that I can pronounce Polish names. Zikanowski likely to be a threat up front, along with Boniek, who's had tremendous experience playing out of Poland, of course, and a well-drilled, well-conditioned side, very well coached. And the Poland-Morocco game should be very good, as indeed should be the Soviet Union-Hungary game. So a lot to look forward to tomorrow, but a great performance by that Canadian side against the vaunted French side, European champions in 1984, containing one of the finest midfield quartets in the world, and a very, very sterling performance by this courageous Canadian side, of whom we must be very proud indeed. Back to you, Chris.
Well, Jeff, just to put this game in perspective, if you were comparing it to hockey, it would be like Canada playing a team in Group B of the World Hockey Championships, and that Group B team pushing Canada till the final couple of minutes before the Canadians could win. In soccer, it's the reverse. Canada is the underdog, but certainly they impressed and earned a lot of respect with their 1-0 loss against France today. It took until the 79th minute before France finally clinched the game. And Jeff Gown, we have no worries about your enunciation of Polish names tomorrow. We look forward for your coverage of Poland and Morocco. That game will be on at 11:30 Eastern Time. The game in the afternoon starts at 2 Eastern Time. Hungary and the Soviet Union, 2 other teams in Group C, and Canada will be watching that game very closely to see how those 2 teams play. They'll be filing information away. They play Hungary Friday and the Soviets next Monday. That about does it today. Brazil won the opening game 1-0 over Spain. Adios from World Cup Control.